So Queensland is closing its border to large parts of Sydney in response to the city's COVID outbreak. And there's also been a case of local spread within Queensland's hotel quarantine system. Reporter Jessica Van Vonderen joins us now from Brisbane. Jess, g'day. I heard you asking questions to the Premier in that media conference just in the last half hour or so. So yeah, just take us through the latest.
Yeah, so Queensland is now taking the exact same steps that we saw Victoria take last night. So there are now 7 local government areas in New South Wales which are out of bounds to Queensland. So that's Sydney City, Waverley, Wallara, Bayside, Canada Bay, Inner West and Randwick. But we are being warned that that list could expand. We haven't yet heard from New South Wales authorities today, but Queensland authorities are saying if there are further cases in further areas, that list of local government areas could be expanded. So what that means is that from 1 a.m. tomorrow, if you are a Queenslander returning home, you will have to go into those 14 days of hotel quarantine. If you are not a Queenslander but you have been in those local government areas, well, you can't come. Now, obviously, we're heading towards school holidays. That's going to plunge a lot of people's plans into certainly some uncertainty, if not disarray. But the Queensland government is saying part of what is driving their decision today is that on Friday here in Queensland, we are looking to ease our restrictions even further. So things like no limits on the number of people we can have in houses, but also really increasing the capacity of things like cafes and restaurants and even charter boats. So a lot more people will be allowed to be inside indoor venues. So the Queensland government is saying they don't want that risk of this Delta variant to be around under that sort of scenario. So we'll have the usual checks and surveillance at the airports, but also, the Premier says, an increased police presence on the roads too.
There'll be increased police patrols. We spoke with the Police Commissioner and the Deputy Police Commissioner along our borders, and there will be a lot more random intercepts as well. So please, if you're from those areas, please do the right thing and stay at home, and we'd love to welcome you back to Queensland at a further date.
Anastasia Palaszczuk speaking there a short time ago. And just one other interesting thing that popped up at that media conference was another case of what they suspect was transmission within a hotel quarantine. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so there's been 3 cases come up that are actually historical ones, infections that we already knew about from June the 8th and June the 10th. 2 people in one hotel room, another person in another hotel room, and initially the thought was, well, these are just people who've returned from overseas and have separately contracted the Delta variant. The genomic sequencing has now come back, and it turns out that they have exactly the same strain. So at some point during their hotel quarantine in the Brisbane airport Novotel, they have given each other the virus. So 30 people currently on that floor 5 of the Novotel, are having their stays extended until authorities can be certain there isn't any further transmission. And people who have stayed in the Novotel recently are now all being contacted by Queensland Health and being advised on what to do in terms of next steps and making sure that they too haven't contracted coronavirus.
Yeah, and interesting to hear the Queensland Deputy Premier Stephen Miles use that opportunity at that media conference to once again push the federal government on a purpose-built facility.
Yeah, any opportunity, Joe, for the Queensland government to push that case. He told the media conference that the Commonwealth has looked at Defence Force grounds but found out nothing suitable where a regional quarantine facility could go. So our Deputy Premier is saying, well, if there's nowhere else for them to go, you've potentially, or you've ruled out regional quarantine in Queensland. So he's used the opportunity again to say, please have another look at Wellcamp. This is the facility that would be built next door to the Wellcamp Airport, which is near Toowoomba. The federal government has ruled it out lots of times before, so I'm not quite sure where else this can go.
And Jess, what's the record of people going through hotel quarantine in Queensland actually paying for their bills?
Yeah, so Tens of thousands of people by now have been in hotel quarantine in Queensland, and you're required to pay that. It's at your own expense. But less than half of invoices, it turns out, have actually been paid. Only 44% paid in full or in part. So that means there's something like $52 million outstanding in quarantine hotel invoices. So Queensland Health is saying they're going to call in the debt collectors in the next couple of weeks to try to recoup some of those costs.
OK, we'll leave it there. Jess Van Vonderen reporting from Brisbane.